Hi, my name is Kaya Stanley, and I am the CEO and Board Chair for CRMBC, the California Restaurant Mutual Benefit Corp. And today I'm sitting here with Selwyn Yosslowitz. Selwyn is on the board of CRMBC, and you also are the founder of Marmalade Cafe, and you have 7 restaurants, and you've been on the board of the California Restaurant Association for over 25 years. So it would be safe to say that you really understand restaurants. And you choose to self-insure your workers' comp coverage. Why?
Well, as you mentioned, we've been around since 1989 with 500 employees, and we've tried many different forms of workers' comp insurance, the conventional, traditional insurance companies, and they've even tried offshore insurance. And we just felt we wanted better control of the outcome of any kind of workers' comp cases that we had. We just feel that the kind of claims we get can be managed in a much better form, so we can see exactly where the claim is going and identify where the problems are. And either we settle quickly or we fight it. And with this self-insurance group, we were able to really take control and give tremendous input and control the outcome.
Now, you talk a lot about control. Tell me the flip side of that. What happens in a traditional insurance company when you don't have control? What does that look like?
Well, what used to happen was that we get a claim, and then it would just get lost in a pile of a claims adjuster who was so overworked and so overwhelmed, paid very little attention to our case, and would dictate to us exactly what is happening to the case without any input whatsoever. And we felt that it was costing us dearly. And if you look at your profit and loss, workers' comp is a big line item, and we wanted to control that loss.
You mentioned that work comp is a major line item for restaurant owners and something that most of them ignore, and they don't have a good idea, a good sense of how much it's costing them, and that there is strategy that they can be implementing around workers' comp. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I feel the cost is great. And particularly in our operation, when every general manager is bonus incentivized on the success of the restaurant, general managers got really bought into the idea of controlling workers' comp. Wasn't a pretty picture all the time. 10, 15 years ago, our workers' comp, in our opinion, was out of control, the kind of claims we got. In the last 3-4 years, with the help of self-insurance and being able to have better control of our workers' comp, we get about 3-4 claims a year. If we have 3 open claims a year, it's a lot with not huge reserves. So we feel that we're able to control it and have a better outcome. And the culture in the company is really focused on workers' comp, and our management team really buys into it because they see the results.
Under your leadership, your company has had a loss ratio that is far below the average in California or among restaurants in general. It's 17%, which is far, far below. Talk to me about loss ratio and what are the steps that you take, that your managers take, and that your business takes to keep those lower loss ratios?
Well, first of all, the management in the company knows the priority of workers' comp. They know how important workers' comp is. They know the cost involved, and they really feel they want to control of how the workers' comp unravels when you get a claim. When a claim is made, we investigate it right away, and our management reports to us exactly where the claim came from, how it came about, and we do our own internal investigation. We contact our claims group with CRMBC, and they guide us in terms of how to handle the claim. We feel very confident that we have the best possible team on covering each claim.
What would you say, what kind of advice would you give to other restaurant owners based on where you were to where you are now and the things that you know now? What do you wish that you knew back at the beginning of this?
Well, when you're starting a business, particularly in our case, we had to take out mortgages and we had to finance all restaurants. Your focus is really on building a restaurant company. When you eventually on the road to success, you get your management really understanding the important line items on the P&L. Workers' comp was a priority for us because at one point we had huge losses and was quite scary, the cost that was involved. So our general management and our total management of the company understood the importance and educated the rest of the employees. At all the management meetings, it was repetitive. On the agenda was workers' comp. Talk about the successes, talking about the pitfalls, talking about how we can better perform. And they've seen the results. They've seen claims go down incredibly, and they see the bonus checks go up proportionately.
Tell me about the importance of a good loss control program in a business.
It starts off at the top. I buy into it. The rest of the team buys into it. And then we start having a program, checking the restaurants, making sure they're safe, making sure morale in the company is good. That's, I believe, is one of the biggest factors behind huge losses in a company when employee morale is very low. I think it breeds a lot of contempt, and people will look towards the workers' comp system to take out the grievances against an employer. I like to believe that we have a very happy crew. I like to believe that our employees feel they have an avenue to vent if they are frustrated, and we solve problems quickly when they arise.
We've definitely seen that in CRMBC, that when there's a morale problem, that there are more workers' comp claims. What would you say the way that the injured employee is treated right after the injury has made a huge difference? What does your company do right at the time of the injury?
Well, we straight away get our team involved with CRMBC, our claims group. They guide us, and we talk to the employee. We follow up with the employee. We make sure they feel very satisfied. If for some reason we feel that no one's got back to them quick enough, we contact our claims management, and they all over it right away. They report back to us what they've said to the employee, and they guide us in terms of how to handle it. In most cases, when it's a minor incident, minor accident, we're able to guide the employee with the help of our claims team back to work relatively quickly. And let's talk about when you have a lawsuit involved. Once again, we get the team together and we fight it. If we feel that it's unjust, it's wrong, I personally go to every single deposition. I personally sit across the table from every single employee that's filed a lawsuit against us. I know most of the people, I know them well, and they feel a sense of loyalty to the company. And I really believe, because they know the culture of the company is good and we take care of our employees, the end result is a better one had we not been self-insured and not had the controls we've got right today.
And to your point, in a traditional insurance company, you don't have that access. You don't have access to go to the deposition. You often don't even know that something's being litigated. And sometimes you can have a bad year and you don't have any ability to manage that. And the traditional insurance company is just it's gonna change your experience modification and raise your rate the next year. Talk about that.
100% correct. And I've seen the difference when I go to the depositions and we're able to change the outcome with our input. I advise the attorney when statements are being made by the plaintiff employee. I advise them what the truth is, what the accuracy is in their statements, or whether their statements have any validity. The outcome is a far better outcome than with traditional insurance. I used to get very frustrated because we just used to find out I settled for a huge amount of money. We had no say in it whatsoever. We paid the price. It's like when you get regular car insurance. You have an accident, the next year premium goes up. The same thing for workers' comp. Right. Poorly managed workers' comp costs you in the end.
So we mentioned earlier that you have been on the board of the California Restaurant Association for 25 years. So you work with a lot of different restaurant owners. Mm-hmm. What would you say, would they be surprised to learn how much time you're spending on workers' comp? Is this something that all restaurant owners do, or is this something that is an area of improvement?
I can't speak on behalf of other restaurant groups, but I do know other groups who feel equally as strongly as our company does about controlling workers' comp. I don't believe when they were traditional insurance, they're the same kind of control that we have. And I honestly believe they have a much better outcome if they were in a group like ours, having the kind of controls that we have currently. In traditional insurance, I think most companies will be quite shocked at how much more money they spend compared to a self-insured group.
Now, so sometimes, as we all know, traditional insurance companies, because they're so big and they have the ability to charge less to basically buy someone's business. So they can charge a lower rate, even lower than the actuary says that they should charge to get business in the door. And you have chosen to stay in workers' comp even when rates were fluctuating. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you've made this choice?
It's a business decision and what you want for your company. For example, when we went in, we got a certain competitive rate, and we've seen ups and downs, but we stayed the course. Because what it's done to us has changed the culture in our company, and it's changed how we think about workers' compensation. So in the long run, it's like when you make an investment, you stick for the long run, and in the end of the day, you'll come out a winner after years of getting ups and downs because you've bought something which is going to mature and it's going to become more profitable. And if you do really well for the group, there can be dividends which can be declared back to the performing members.
Which never happens in a traditional insurance company.
No, traditional insurance companies take your money, and then when you come to the next year, they give you a story, oh, it's not a good year, we have to increase your premiums by 20%. And I feel you get stuck, you're caught with a traditional insurance company, and you're relying on them to determine what your premium is going to be for the following years. I feel with self-insurance, we've got a skin in the game. And I've seen it happen in the last few years where our premiums have come down because we are performing well.
So in the casino world, we know that the house always wins. And a lot of people don't realize that traditional insurance works the same way. What that means is that over time, they're going to make a profit even if your individual experience one year to the next is different. Talk to me about that.
Exactly. That's a very good statement, because if we operate at 17% losses, we don't get any benefit from that great performance. They don't come back to us and say, oh, yes, 50% of your premium back. Maybe they give a teeny little discount in the following years, but that's not good enough. With self-insurance, you have the control. There's no extra fringe costs fancy costs involved in self-insurance. You control your own destiny, and that's what I like about it, because we feel good about knowing what our costs are, knowing where we're going, and knowing if we perform well, we've got a great chance to get a dividend and a reduced premium.
So we've been talking kind of in generalities, but I want to get an actual example from you. Is there a time that you had a claim that could have been catastrophic if you had been in a traditional insurance that you were able to control because you're in self-insurance?
Yes. We had a chef working for us for about 30 years, and he had a very serious, I believe it was an aneurysm that he had, and he tried to blame it on working at our company that caused the aneurysm. It was quite frightening because the reserves on it were enormous, and we felt we did nothing wrong. It was outside of the scope of the work environment, and we actually went all the way, with the help of our claims group, we went all the way to trial. And during the trial, it came out that he had a major health problem and a reported health problem, and he went to the hospital. He was forced to report the details of this problem, and in the end of the trial, they got zero. And for us, it was a long-term employee. We were a great employer. We did everything right to support this employee, and it could have been a grave injustice done to us. And in the end of the day, we came out, we did the right thing with the right support, and we're very grateful for that.
And what would have been different if you were in a traditional insurance company?
I think we would have been lost in a pile of some paperwork with a claims administrator, and we would never have had the opportunity to go to trial and to fight it. I can't imagine how many traditional insurance companies are prepared to go to trial. Our attorney and our group really believed in our case, really believed when I told them I will go take the stand, and they were very supportive. I don't believe that would have happened with the traditional insurance.
Okay, talking more about the control and how involved you get in your claims. You actually have a relationship with the attorneys that are on your cases. Tell us more about that and why it's important.
I think it's incredibly important if you want to control the cost of your claim and the outcome. When I go to a deposition, I understand what the claim is, and most of the time they are fraudulent, and I advise our attorney exactly where the conversation should go. And when the employee makes false statements, I give the attorney the facts, and he cross-questions the ex-employee or current employee. And in the end of the day, it always works out in our favor. The truth always comes to surface, but I believe if I never had the input with the attorney, with the traditional insurance, I would never be able to control our costs the way I do.
Right, because they would just be going to trial without the benefit of speaking to the owner. So that's definitely going to impact the outcome of these cases.
Well, just a deposition, first I wouldn't be given an opportunity to go to the deposition, and I wouldn't know how it transpired and what really went on and for these exorbitant costs. I'd just be told at the end of the day, I was settled for a large amount and that's it.
One of the biggest objections that restaurant owners have to self-insuring is the joint and several liability. Why doesn't that faze you?
Well, it might have initially fazed me when we were having assessments. People have a real right to be concerned. But I think what's happened as the success of this group has developed, and we see the huge surpluses that we have right now, you've got more chance of getting a dividend than getting an assessment. And I think when you take a business risk with anything, if I look at how we opened our restaurants, our risk was far greater than worrying about an assessment, which might or might not happen, and a greater chance of getting a dividend.
Earlier, you mentioned that one of the biggest differences between the CRMBC of the past and the CRMBC today is the difference in members that we are allowing into this group. And you are part of that decision-making process as a board member. Talk to me a little bit about who is the right member for a self-insured group.
Well, I think a company that really focuses on culture is, not, in my opinion, is number one. The general culture of the company, if it's healthy, I think workers' comp will form part of that healthy mindset. I think that it's very important that any company considering coming into this group needs to go through an evaluation process, which we currently do, so we can understand exactly that they're not coming in for 1 year and just to try and get a discount on premium. They're in it for the long haul. And they can assess us. Once they've been in this group for 2 years, they will see the benefits right away. And they will be in it for the long haul. Like I've enjoyed the benefits, and I believe that other groups, once they understand the benefits, will be very keen to be part of this group.
There is so much going on in the restaurant industry in California, politically, minimum wage, the economy, and you take the position that self-insurance is a strategic move to kind of help mitigate all of these things. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do believe it's a cost like any other major item on your profit and loss statement, and you can control it. If you really feel fundamentally that you can control the way you do business and the way workers' comp will work out in your favor, there has to be a mindset to focus on workers' comp, to really focus on the culture in your company to make that a priority. I've seen it in our company. When we renew leases, we pay premium increases with our landlords. We've seen labor costs. It's a challenge for us. But workers' comp is just another expense that we have to control and we have to focus on. It's just not something that we can ignore. And that's, I think, is the difference between maybe a company that isn't part of this group and maybe part of a traditional insurance group.
Ultimately, workers' comp is about the injured worker and making sure that they get the care that they need when they have an injury that was caused in the workplace. Tell me a little bit about the impact that you've been able to have on the lives of these injured workers and their families.
Workers' comp has been around for a reason. If someone legitimately has an injury, we're there. We're the first ones to take care of that employee. We're going to make sure that they don't lose any time from work. They get their full pay, and we take all those steps and we communicate with them until they feel comfortable that we are doing everything right to protect them and their family. We have long-term employees, and in our company, most people feel, I'd say practically everyone feels that we will take care of them if there is any kind of injury in the company. I know in most insurance, traditional insurance, they don't cover the wages for the first 3 days. We always pay the employee for those 3 days before the claim becomes effective, before they get paid. So when employees see that, the entire company witnesses how they're treated and how quickly they come back to work. That's very good for just the morale in the company.
What are the most common types of injuries that your restaurant experiences and the restaurant owners that you know? What are the most common?
Well, I think cuts, the cuts, and when you start getting the lower back, that's not common, but when people want to go after you, and will be the lower back and upper extremities, lower extremities, and we've seen that when they hire an attorney, and we've been able to really home in on where it's the false claims and really make sure that they don't take us to the cleaners.
Are there some best practices that you guys have implemented in your organization that has minimized or lessened some of those claims?
I think we talk about workers' comp all the time. It's a priority. It's top of mind at all our management meetings, workers' comp, and we share our success stories and we share the areas which we are concerned about. If we're not approaching it in an effective manner. And I think workers' comp being top of mind, you see the benefits. And if we can control the cost and control the outcome, everyone benefits.
One of the biggest areas of loss in workers' comp is when a claim becomes litigated. In your opinion, are there things that the business owner can do to avoid claims becoming litigated?
Yeah, there definitely are things you can do if morale is good in a company, and I focus a lot on morale because some employers, if they feel resentful towards the management, feel resentful towards the ownership, I think you start breeding a ground of possible workers' comp claims, and they feel they have this attitude to get back to the employer. I feel it's very important that you stay in communication with the employees. They see you in action. They see how you treat their fellow employees if they do have an injury. And, that's the best way to take care of your employees. If there is an injury which deserves major attention, take care of the employee immediately. Don't let them be out of pocket, and don't let their family feel that they have to worry financially.
Now, you've implemented something in your business called quarterly claims reviews. Tell us a little bit about what those entail and why you do those.
Okay, we get the entire team on a telephone call, and we get all the administrators, the claims analysis. We get our senior management on the call, and every single claim is discussed in great detail, and everyone has input in terms of how we can mitigate the losses and how we can handle the claim. That's super effective because when it comes to the next review, we see the progress that we've made and whether we stick to the same strategic approach that we had from the last review. And everyone feels they have better control, and our management like it because they have very serious input in how we proceed with these claims.
So the point of a self-insured group is that there's members of the same industry that come together to form the group and manage the group. And CRMBC is a group of restaurant owners that manage it from the board level, manage everything about it. What's the significance of that to you?
Well, what's great is that there's firstly sharing of best practices. And we all love hearing success stories from our fellow restaurant operators. And it really keeps the bar very high because you want to perform in this group and you really want to listen to what other restaurant operators have got to add. And a lot of them can shed some incredible light on how you focusing on your workers' comp claims. And so we're all in the same boat. We all know we've got increased costs. We know this is a problem. And it's just wonderful to be able to share our experiences and how to perform better.
So you're also part of the California Restaurant Association, which is a group of restaurant owners also. So you've said before that this is sort of like a trade association.
Yeah, what's wonderful about it is that you can share great ideas with better practices. And everyone likes to be around other success stories. And we're seeing the benefits. And we had a great point in the history of CRMBC because they're in a position of growth. And they can be very specific and strategic who they choose as members and for the future. And there are several members we can identify that we really want to be part of this group, and which will be wonderful, and they can help our group to grow and go to the next level.
And to your point, we are now growing the group. We weren't for many years, and now we're actively growing the group. Who do you think is the perfect potential member to join CRMBC?
If I look at ourselves, well, 7 restaurants, 500 employees. I think a perfect company to benefit is anywhere from 1 to 10 restaurants, and they're in a position that they really understand how important controlling of workers' comp is. Yeah, larger companies are great to have, but I think having like anywhere from 1 to 10 is a great soft spot for restaurants to join this group.
And to your point, we do have very many members that are also much larger. Is that a good fit too?
Yeah, and it's great to have a mix between fast food, fast casual, and table service restaurants, because what you bring to the table are different attitudes, and because your costs are different, and which is really healthy because you're able to share the ideas, and you go right across our industry and have different types of restaurant operators.
CRMBC has a massive turnaround story. Over 12 years ago, there was a major deficit, and the state required the board to do an assessment on the members. You chose to stay in the group during that time. In hindsight, tell me about that decision, and are you happy that you made that decision?
Yeah, be quite honest with you, when they did the first and the second assessment, we weren't happy. We were at a stage in our company where the economy was taking a dip as well, and so there were a lot of other factors. But when we do an analysis over the past 20 years, if we include both assessments compared to what we would have had paid to a traditional insurance company, we're still way ahead of the game. And for us, that's a win. That's a win-win. And now when we see where CRMBC is now, and we just received a dividend for the good performance of the group, we just see a very bright future. And whatever we've done, we're going to reap the benefits of it.
So in traditional insurance, you're never seeing a dividend. If they make more money, what happens?
That's right. They go and buy a booth at Dodger Stadium or
right.
whatever sports event they do.
Right.
And we want to control our own destiny. We want to see it. And we want to see dividends if we perform well. And we weren't a perfect story. 10 years ago, we had very high losses. And today, the last 3 years, we've had 17% loss ratios. And that's a great story because we weren't perfect. We weren't a perfect company. And workers' comp got away from us until we did a turnaround and assessment of how we operate and where our focus should be.
But you still wouldn't have seen those kind of outcomes unless you were in self-insurance.
100%. We would never have seen the results we've got today.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is an amazing story, actually. Yeah, if we look back when we got, I see the kind of lawsuits we got, and we were going, oh my gosh, it was like, couldn't control it.
Right.
At one point, we had like 125% loss ratios. Now we've got 17%.
Yeah, so you had a huge turnaround too.
Huge turnaround.
Huge turnaround story.
Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you.